Sick. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Andrew, you alive over there?
Yeah, what's up? Oh, yo,
What's up?
what up? How are you guys?
Fantastic. I like the floating bookshelf. It looks like the books are just literally just floating behind you.
Yeah, it's a ledge.
Oh, yeah, it is. That explains the invisible nature of the shelf then.
I get a lot of comments on that. Some customers are looking at me and they're like, what the hell is behind this?
Yeah.
I'm really in 0G. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Josh, thank you, man, for joining. You are our second guest.
Woo.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So did you do tech call, Josh?
I did not. No. I applied. I don't know if I even went through the application process. I think I did one call with them, and then they wanted me to sign that letter. I forget what they called it, the covenant, the agreement. And I was like,
The
yeah,
covenant. No. Yeah, sounds very official.
Yes. And I was like, I'm not gonna restrict myself. I was very early on in my transition process. I was like, I can't do that.
When was that? Like 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through in 2017. I was cohort 5. And back then it was very little risk on the students. And most of the risk was on tech qual.
Yeah.
When we signed, they basically were like, we did have a covenant, but it was really a loose covenant. And tech qual was responsible for getting you interviews and getting you placed. And they paid for everything.
Yeah.
These days, like I talk to people that are going through tech qual these days, like cohort like 30 and stuff. And tech qual is like making them shell out money like up front.
Yeah. Nah. It's a good idea. Like just the economics of it probably aren't there. Or no.
I enjoyed my time there. I mean, I think more than anything, like the training was good for sure. Like it was helpful at the time to know like what the cloud is.
Yeah.
A network is and stuff like that. That's basically we learned like really high level IT stuff. But really what helped me was the connections I made. People I met. Every single job I've gotten, and I've had 3 different jobs since getting out, was a referral from a tech qual grad.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that is good then. Yep.
Well, listen, dude, we're gonna dive into this. You know Matt Bolian? Does that name sound familiar?
Yes.
So he was our first guest yesterday.
Yep. Nice.
He gave us some good feedback, and that's why you saw me send you an email with the agenda, because we didn't do that with Matt. He's like,
we just threw him in, started asking him questions like, guys, what is this? Like, I thought I was just catching up with Andrew.
Oh man, call him off guard. Yeah. No, I appreciate the questions. It's good. Yeah.
So really, Mark and I have been meeting every few weeks, every 2 weeks, every other Thursday morning for weeks, months, a while.
Months now. We've done it a couple times. Yeah.
And Mark came up with this idea of like, why don't we, first it was just the 2 of us, why don't we record ourselves as we have these conversations and we just catch up about sales stuff.
I mean, we're just 2 geniuses. It was just a shame not to share that with the world. We were just dropping like knowledge and truth bombs. And I was like, there's, no one's going to believe us. So here we are.
Yeah.
And then he was like, we could also start inviting people and pick people's brains about, we started our first thought, or our first question was this idea of what is your sales superpower?
Yeah.
And so you see that in the agenda. That's one of the questions we'll get to. But really, we wanted to spend some time with other people. And the idea is that we're going to take a clip of, so in this 30 minutes, we'll probably take like a 30-second to 60-second clip and post it to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
If it's okay with you, we'll tag you. And the idea is just put good content out there.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal for today, man.
Yeah. That's funny. No, I'm doing something similar, but like I'm not calling it like intentionally not calling it a podcast. I'm calling it just we're having a conversation and I'm gonna record it because you've got a good idea or a good story and we're gonna put it out there on LinkedIn. So it's funny. I'm doing the same thing. It's I just did one about there's a West Point dude that stood up like a nonprofit helping underprivileged privileged or lower income folks, people that are, come from families that don't have money to do application processes and multiple SAT tests that are required for like college and stuff like that. So he created a nonprofit to help fill that gap, help candidates that are applying to ROTC programs or service academies that need help applying, can help get them connected or give them the money they need to do it. So,
cool.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Who is that?
Tim Berry is the guy that did it. He's at Google now, I believe. But it started when he was an admissions officer for West Point.
Mhm.
And some kid was like right on the bubble of being able to, he was in a good spot, was going to get in, but they're like, hey man, can you take the SAT one more time? Let's just try and get it a little bit higher. And he was like, sorry, I can't pay for the test again. 2, I don't have a way to get there to take the test. Like I'm working. And they're like, the guy was like, really? Here, no, this is like, you're getting into a service academy from you're pulling yourself out of I don't know if he's going to be this first college grad in his family or whatever. But so initially he just paid for it himself. And he started talking with other admin and admission officers. And they were like, is there no one helping these people? If money's the only thing stopping them from applying, starting, a career.
Yeah.
So now he went and
Awesome.
yeah. So
well, let's kick this off, man. Well, tell us a little about yourself, and then we'll dive into your career progression, if you would be so kind.
Yep, of course. So I'm Josh. I was in the Army for 10 years. I was an infantry officer, had no tech experience. Don't know anything about the cloud other than it's what you look at in the sky when you're walking around in the woods. Got out in 2018, was interested in tech. My thing back then was that I wanted to be involved in self-driving cars. I was like super passionate about it. I was driven by it. My idea was like, hey, I think 30,000 people die on the roads every year just in America. And I was like, if I can make a difference in that and use tech to get self-driving cars up, and I could save, even 1% of that, that's a huge impact. I'm saving lives, blah, 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 blah. So did not get a job, but didn't even get interviews at Uber or any of those, Waymo, all those self-driving companies that are like, who is this guy? He doesn't know anything about technology or cars or anything. So, but Gartner was at a career conference hiring military, and a guy named Matt Rothman there was super excited about me coming to work for Gartner, and his enthusiasm was contagious. And I was like, this guy loves the idea of me interviewing. I'm excited for Gartner. So interviewed and got started off at Gartner as an account executive in their midsize enterprise, like their startup channel. Learned sales there, did that for like a year. It's a very high coaching environment. I learned sales, I learned technology, I learned like the startup culture. Learned it's like mostly vendors is who we worked with, or vendors is who we worked with. So it was kind of got the itch then for working with technology companies, sales. It was just really fun. Did sales manager bit for like 18 months. And then I went to the Army accounts at Gartner and did that. Got to learn like kind of colors of money, government contracting, all that stuff. Got to learn another value prop for Gartner. So how we help end users of technology in addition to people that make and sell technology. And then just like a month ago, moved from Gartner to Okta, which is a identity provider. So kind of back to my tech roots, if you could even call them roots.
Yeah.
Working with those high tech, high growth, very fast paced, one of the startup tech company that's making and selling technology to the government. So I bring Okta's identity services to the Army. So it's really fun being Okta's person that works with the Army. Or if you look at it the other way around. I am the Army's Okta guy. So
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. There's a big push at Salesforce for us to work much closer with Okta. So you and I might be working together a little bit.
I am talking to John next week, next Wednesday. Yeah.
My boss.
What's that?
I think he's my boss. John
Yeah. Scorzato. Yep. So
good.
Yep. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So being a month in at Okta, I'm always curious about onboarding processes at different companies. Like, and actually, Mark, I don't think I've asked you about this because you just started too.
Yeah.
But what's it been like onboarding at Okta compared to like Gartner or some other places?
I think Gartner, it's not good or bad either way, but Gartner's onboarding process is historically in person. They'd bring everyone to like Fort Myers. All the sales folks would go to Fort Myers, and you do like a couple weeks of academy of onboarding training. And so COVID, they just moved all that online, but the process is still the same. You still had, so you'd be doing a whole lot of WebEx, live calls, classes, interactions, role plays, and all that stuff. So it was intensive on the live interactions. So that's good for, in a lot of ways. Okta's is heavy on demand video training, learn at your own pace, which we use a vendor called MindTickle, which I'd never even heard of till I came to Okta, and it's just
Interesting name.
Yeah, tickles the mind, I guess. But I like it because I am a self-paced learner. You can do it on demand. If there's concepts you're like very familiar with, you can increase the speed, make it 1.5 times. So like, all right, I got this. It gives you little quizzes throughout. So it's like checks on learning. So I think that's the biggest difference, is that on demand versus live interactions, but everything else is pretty much the same. Teach you the customer, teach you the product, and then get you to do some role plays on the conversations.
Yeah, Andrew, my experience has been the same. Josh, I think we both put up our we had our last day the same day, because I remember seeing you post about Gartner like your last day. I even mentioned it to Andrew because I was putting together like my little post. I was like, dude, Josh like wrote the perfect like goodbye post, and mine is like not even the same link. I'm just gonna be like, thank you so much, you've all been great. Like, and you were like, Gartner's great, and here's why you should go work there. And I was like, God, make it look bad over there. So yeah, totally remote onboarding has been interesting. When I onboarded with my first company, Encino, it was in person. They sat you down, we did this, kind of did that. Better Up's kind of a late stage, high growth startup. So there's a lot of movement. We have the same thing. It's called Lessonly. Like it's, here's the Better Up story, here's how to learn that piece. The first couple of weeks have all been kind of admin stuff. Like I've had to set up all my accounts and, work in Workday and set up this and that. Next week, I get into what they call like field training, like sales training, where it's here's how to pitch, here's how to do role playing, here's our value, a lot of that. I too like the self-paced piece. Like I've got my checklist of, okay, you need to go watch this video and learn this and go do that. Like I like having that. Sandwiched in all of that was our sales kickoff this week. So it's like my brain is literally exploding from just like a lot of great stuff. But I think of the analogy of the iceberg with the penguins, and like as I learn something new, like it pushes off some other penguin, and I don't know what I pushed off. There's been a lot of learning, so I'm happy for things to kind of slow down. And I do wish they were in person for some of it. Like it would be nice to have kind of that in person arrangement. The only negative thing I've seen is like, because they're running fast and lean, like they're trying to grow quickly. There's some areas that like there's just not a lot of support. Like you have to go find out yourself. There's nobody to ask the question to. Looks like some of the random HR stuff. I'm like, hey, when do I get my medical insurance card? Like random stuff. I was like, who do I talk to about that? Like there's not like I can't go to the desk. But they, it's funny that I had that thought at the following all hands. The CEO was like, hey, we're getting some feedback that some of this stuff is hard to figure out on your own, so we're just going to hire a bunch more people and have them help you out. I was like, cool. All right, well, I'm glad you read my mind. So
that's cool.
Onboarding is wild.
Excuse me. I did I don't know if you guys do CrossFit at all, but I did a workout today and my lungs are still burning I feel like I smoked an entire pack of Newports.
That's not how that's supposed to go.
No,
Did you do the open one? Is that what you did?
I did the open
Yeah.
this morning. Did you do it?
My wife did. She came back tired.
Oh, man.
I did a couple push-ups and pull-ups in the garage, and that's it.
There you go.
I'm feeling it.
Yep.
All right, man. Where do you see yourself? So you've been in tech since 2018. You're a guy who plans, man. Well, actually, before I get into this, I wanted to say, and we should probably, Mark, make a note. We need to include this in the agenda of why we picked Josh, because he probably has no idea like why we picked him to join us. But really, it was me, because I follow you a lot on Gartner, and I love your content, the stuff you put out. And then also we've talked about you working at Salesforce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for me, like when I think about who I want to bring on, we're trying to bring people on that could offer some good advice about sales, and who just have a mindset of like maybe customer first, customer focused, as opposed to like just crushing their number and making zillions of dollars. Because there's different types of salespeople out there. There's those people who are like all about, I don't know, just making a butt ton of money, and then there's people
I've been Diamond Club every year.
Like, yeah. And then there's people who genuinely care about making a difference and an impact in your customer's environment. And so we're after the latter. Like we're after the kinds of folks who we feel like are authentic, genuinely trying to help their customers. And as you do that, I think the money will come. Yeah. And so that's something that I just, after watching your post for several months, years, really, I thought it'd be cool to have you on board. But anyways, wanted you to know that. So where do you see yourself career progression wise? I mean, you just started at Okta, but surely I know you have some sort of idea where you're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years.
You teed it up well. You could see it from my post, I guess. Everything you just said. My like little branding thing I've tried to position myself at is the intersection of like technology, national security, and politics. So that customer first mindset is because that's the three things I'm passionate about, which is funny because I'm not a tech. I don't have any tech skills or experience. Like my college degree is like military science. So like no tech skills. And then the other thing, politics, I've never ran for office. I've never been involved in politics. I just read about it and I think it's interesting. So, but where I see myself in 5, 10, 20 years is probably still going to be at somewhere at the intersection of those three things. Somehow working in national security, politics, and or technology. And as much as I can combine those as I can, the better, because that's what I'm passionate about. So that's what makes it. Yes, I'm in sales, and I've been in sales for like 4 years now, but I don't see it as sales. I see myself as solving problems in technology, national security, and or politics. So that's where I'll be probably. And if it's in sales roles or ops roles or project manager, it doesn't really matter. What makes my job easy or makes like doing what I do fun is the fact that I'm working in an area where I'm passionate about. So it makes it fun. It's stressful, but it's like a good stress. So no.
Dude, that's really
jealous.
Cool.
I'm jealous of your clarity of vision there. That's just so like, you can ask somebody like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, oh, I want to be in sales management, or I want to be like here and blah, blah, blah. You're like, no, I want to be at the intersection, of these things that I'm passionate about. Like whatever it is I need to do to be at that intersection and be helpful and be useful and deliver value. That's, I got to go reframe what I'm thinking about. That's so cool.
There's like 2 reframes. I do the veterati calls. I probably do like 2 a month, maybe. And that's like usually people, they have the same questions. I don't know what I want to do, or what's even out there? What are my skill sets? And like the 2 kind of reframe questions I have for them is one, create a mission statement for yourself, like the who, what, when, where. And the most important thing is the why. You can do a lot of things in a lot of different locations and make different amounts of money. But ultimately, if you're not doing something that you're like passionate about, that you're like, you would almost do if people wouldn't pay you. If money were no object, if you were a trust fund baby and you didn't have to work for money, what would you do all day long?
Mhm.
And if you can get someone to pay you to do that, then it's not really work. So that's one thing. Make a mission statement, focus on the why. And then the second thing is, all throughout when we were kids, we got told, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's not nearly as important as answering, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want your daily, weekly, or monthly routine to look like? And if you are comfortable doing the same thing day in and day out with not much change in pace, then maybe some project management or operation roles are really good for you. But if you want something, if you're very outgoing and you love talking to people about their problems and you like doing that back and forth on trying to persuade them to see your point of view, and you like being metric driven, then maybe sales is good for you, because you're going to be talking to a whole bunch of people for the first time, trying to do that back and forth on trying to understand their point of view, convince them maybe of your point of view. And ultimately you are measured on how successful you are in those conversations. Then, you would not have thought, I want to be a salesperson. But if that's what you like to do, you maybe would back yourself into that role, be like, oh, maybe if I like doing that, I guess I could be in sales. So,
Dude, I'm going to use this. I use this with Matt. That belongs on a t-shirt. What do you want to do versus what do you want to be?
no.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We got it. We don't have to talk anymore, guys. We got the clip. That was it. The two things. That's really good. I started on Veterati recently, taking a few calls. I'm trying to get more, I tell Andrew this, I'm trying to help other veterans get into tech sales. It's not easy to get started. I don't have the same clarity that you're sharing with, I'm going to steal it. But, I tell them, I was like, look, what do you a less eloquent version of what do you like to do? What interests you? What verticals kind of are around, you have a passion for? It might be tough to sell, chemicals if you don't care about cleaning solutions or, this and that. But if you love it, then you're going to love that, that's I'm going to steal that one so I can give back to more veterans in that way, because that's a great way to frame that.
I got an off the wall question. I'm just curious about. I'm just curious about this. Have you considered becoming an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial while still going in that direction of living in the intersection of those three passions of yours?
Yeah, every couple months, especially working in Gartner's startup channel, of seeing how fast paced and exciting it was. Ultimately, it's about, I'm not in that stage of life where I can do that right now. I got a wife and 2 kids, a mortgage.
Yeah.
So I cannot take the risk of starting a company from scratch,
But it's an itch. It's something that's constantly just in the back of your mind, that would be cool.
Yeah, 100%. Just because if you see a problem that's not being solved, any proactive, go getter type of personality wants to go solve it. So, no.
That's a good way to put it. I have the same itch. All right, man. Let's get into. We might go a little over. Are we okay? Are you okay on time, Josh?
Yeah, I need to leave by 2:40 to go pick up the kid from school.
Okay. What would you say your sales superpower is? What's a significant trait or characteristic you have that makes you good at your job?
I'm gonna go back to the passionate thing. You've got to be passionate about the customer, not what you're selling, but about the customer you're selling to. That is the most important thing. One, because you're going to get told to no a lot for a variety of reasons. And if you're not passionate about helping the customer, you're going to get told no, and you're going to get man, I was trying to think of the word yesterday in the same conversation. You're going to get dissuaded, I guess, disheartened. You're going to get disheartened by being told no to your product a lot. So you can't be passionate about whatever you're selling. You got to be passionate about the people you're helping. There's a good quote, I can't remember who it is, that said a company's value is the sum of the problems it solves. So going back to the point of, it's not about how much money you make. You're about hitting your quota or your commission. It is about the value of the problems that you solve. And if if I am passionate about solving problems at the intersection of technology and national security. So obviously I put myself in a tech company in a role that's selling to the Army, so that my passion, so that I can like be rewarded by working every day in my passion.
Yeah.
But what it means is, for like being a superpower, is that I don't mind being told no. I'm naturally going to do the work that's needed to reach out to people and to create business conversations. I'm going to do my research beforehand on the customer and their problem and how our product fits into it. But again, because I'm passionate about it, not because it's my job and I need that to hit my quota, but because I'm really interested in, the poor state of IT in the Army. I am passionate about solving that problem. And whether it's Salesforce or Okta or Gartner, any of those companies I could go work for and be really happy and probably be really successful at, because I'm solving a problem with IT in the Army. So I think that's what, if I have a superpower, it's really just, I care.
Yeah. That's awesome. And plus you're like, the people you're working with they can sense that passion, right? And you want to work with other people who are passionate about the work that you're doing.
Yep.
You want to be like, here's a salesperson who's just like, I'm just a number to this person. I just like, they're just pitching it because they need to hit their quota. Like, now here's Josh. He's passionate about improving, IT in the Army, because IT in the military in general is just terrible. Until you guys get in there and fix it. But yeah, that's gonna be something else that's gonna make them want to work with you, like that passion.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I've had a customer once tell me that passion, that authenticity was one of the reasons why they chose my company over the competitor.
That's awesome.
What
I can't imagine hearing, like, that's the greatest thing to hear, right? Like, hey, I chose you because you have the best product. No, I chose you because like you have a good product, but like I like working with people like you, and it seems like your company hires those sort of people. Like,
yeah,
that's all I want to hear.
I feel like I'm hogging all the questions, Mark. Why don't you take over? Do you have them?
Well, you asked the 5 to 10 years question, but I kind of want to come back to that, because are you ever going to go back to autonomous vehicles?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Who knows? I mean, I would love to. Like, again, it's something I'm still super passionate about.
Sure.
So our neighborhood sits right on next to a 2-lane road that the speed is 60 miles an hour. The speed limit's 60 miles an hour. So of course people go 70, 75 on it. And it's a legit 2-lane road that people are going 70 miles an hour on, right next to a neighborhood where people are pulling out on. Yeah. So there's wrecks all the time. Accident, whether it's drunk drivers or just, speed accidents, all the time. And I think about, again, go back to the big solving a problem that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. If I could keep families from getting into violent car wrecks right outside my neighborhood, I could trace back work I do for some autonomous vehicle, self-driving vehicle program. If I could trace that back to maybe saving a family in my local community that, they for somehow trace it back to that, then yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I think that's what's for folks. If you can figure out that identity for yourself, that's specific enough that you're passionate about it. You can't say I'm passionate about
saving lives.
Saving lives, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, how does that turn into what you do?
Yeah.
But if you can make it specific enough, but also broad enough that you can do a lot of different things for a lot of different companies within that. So that's why technology, I think, the better use of data, there's so many actual AI companies using AI to do cool things in the national security space. I would be happy and passionate to go work for any of those, like data, AI, you name it. So.
I think it goes back to your mission, the intersection, right? That I could very much see you doing that sometime in the future, or, you know, the entrepreneurial itch, starting your own autonomous vehicle company, maybe further down the road. But so one of the last questions we always ask people, kind of like the outro, I want to ask you two questions because of your background. One is like, hey, what's a piece of sales advice that you would give to somebody just getting into sales? But before you answer that, it's going to be the second question. Before you answer that, I want to talk about your transition out of the military and into sales, because that's something that Andrew and I talk about. That's something that I talk about with folks on my Veterati calls, because they're like, hey, how did you get into sales straight out of the military? So what would you say to that veteran who wants to get into sales? Like, you found Gartner at a career, you know, conference, you know, beyond kind of like networking, what would you say? Like, you know, I'm coming to you and say, hey, you know, Josh, want to get into sales like you did. What would you recommend?
Number one, I think a lot of folks, like a lot of companies look for in sales, especially the first sales job, is that you're coachable. You're hungry to learn. You're a sponge for knowledge. You're coachable. Like, they understand you've got some of the traits like grit and discipline to be successful in sales, but you don't know like sales process, or certainly not the product. So you've got to demonstrate that you are open to learning, and you got to do that in the interview process is one, show that. So, and that's really makes you successful in sales, because that openness to learning or that coachability goes for your customers too. When you go on calls with prospects, you are naturally curious. You want to learn about their world and what their priorities and their problems are, so that you can understand the current state and how your product gets to them to where they want their future state to be. So that's first thing, be open and learning. Second is, don't be afraid to take a job that you probably feel you're overqualified for. My first sales job, I was 33 at the time, and all my peers were 22, 23, right out of college. And I was like, you know, been to combat twice, and I've got 2 kids, and, you know, they're a bunch of kids right out of college, mostly single. But again, I was coachable. I wanted to learn technology and sales. And the best way to do that was to put myself in one of those roles where I was getting coached like a 23-year-old. And it's exactly what I needed. You just got to have a small ego when it comes to that. So for anyone want to make a big career pivot from the military into tech sales, that's a huge career pivot. You've got to be open to learning, and you got to have a small ego so that you could take those like SMB account manager roles, or that SDR, BDR roles. Like, there's tons of BDR roles at Salesforce right now. Like, the guys shares them every day on LinkedIn. So I think about what a good spot that would be for, you know, a lieutenant captain, E5 getting out of the military to go, that has grit, they're outgoing, they're disciplined with themselves. Like, that's a great way to get into sales.
That's awesome. Let's say they land that job. What's beyond being coachable and having a small ego? What do you tell them? They're in onboarding. They're going through their mind tickle.
Learn your customer, become an expert on your customer more so than the product. Like, yes, you got to learn whatever you're selling. You got to learn how your product or services fits into their world. But the most important thing is you learn the world. So that you can speak the language. When they say things, you understand what they're saying. And, you know, again, it goes back to being passionate about it. You've got to, when you wake up in the morning, not have to be told to go research their company or their market. So just be naturally curious about it.
I mean, that's such an amazing frame. I'm thinking about that in terms of my onboarding, and thinking about like, okay, I have to learn, like, I sold to banks and credit unions before. Now I sell to kind of all companies, but understanding that in this journey, as I'm learning, I have to learn my product and I have to learn this new market. If I start with that customer, if I start with them, then as I'm learning about the product, I understand how it fits better and solves a problem for them, rather than learning the product and trying to apply some feature or functionality to their life. And it's that's such a better frame. That's just the right way to approach it.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Hey, Andrew, I might be ending the kind of the Mark and Andrew show, and it might be the Mark and Josh show. He's got some great points, man. I mean,
He's kicking me out, dude. Josh, you make some really good points, man. Almost every single point you brought is something it's an answer I haven't thought or I haven't heard before. You bring a new perspective. These are basic questions about sales, right? Like we get asked these questions in interviews probably all the time, and these are just basic sales questions. But I really like your perspective, man. The way you frame some of this is pretty cool. So I really appreciate it. To get you out of here in the next 4 minutes to go pick up the kids. Let's do 2 minutes of feedback for us. How could we improve the podcast? Well,
podcast. We don't know what this is yet.
We're
in the same spot, Josh. We're like, it was literally just like an idea of like, we like having these types of conversations with smart people. Here we are.
I don't know. I mean, so far the agenda and the conduct, the questions, this is all perfectly fine. My guess is on how you want, what you do with everything after this. I don't know. I haven't watched any your previous podcasts, but however you visualize it, and like you go, whatever your go-to-market plan is probably that. So that's my issue. I started off, I tried to do like a podcast, like branding, and it just took so much work. Like, I don't know what app you use to edit the video and put it stuff, but it was really time consuming. And obviously I don't have time for that. So,
I mean, I think that's something we're thinking about, because like you had so many good points, and for Andrew and I, it was mostly just like, let's pull out, like you said, a 30-second clip, of this.
But now that there's 2 of us, you could pull out one clip of him saying something awesome, and I could pull out a different clip of him saying something.
And that way they get 2
same
times
interview, but
Josh.
2 different clips.
2
different clips. Listen, man, I really appreciate you coming. I'll let you go. I know how important it is to get out on time for the kids. I gotta pick my kids up here in a little bit too. So thanks for joining us, dude. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's good chatting with y'all. It's always fun. So looking forward to watching it, see whatever nuggets you pull out.
Parting question. Do you wear Crocs, yes or no?
No.
0 for 2, Andrew. 0 for 2. Nobody else wears Crocs.
I'm going to start a company that competes with Crocs.
2 people in my house do wear Crocs, and they are 5 and 2 years old. So.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Have a good one. Bye.
See you, buddy.
Hey, do you mind sending me the raw recording footage so that?
Yes. So I put the one from yesterday in our shared Google Drive, the Sales Veterans Mastermind. But I didn't, like I said, I'm going to try to set up that Riverside account. According to their pitch video, it's easier to, pull out snippets than downloading the raw Zoom file, exporting it into iMovie and blah, blah, blah. So I'll take a look at that for 2 weeks from now. Is it in there?
What's it called again? I got a new computer, so